Hi everybody, thanks for watching. John Meadows here, and today we're talking about BCAAs again, or more specifically, why you should use EAAs instead of BCAAs. We talk about it a lot, but there's always new information that becomes available, and I'd like to share it with you. The number one thing for me is client results, and my results too, quite frankly. If I feel like something is working and it works over and over and over in clients or myself, then I tend to keep it. So I'm a little bit more, we'll call that anecdotally based. However, you can't ignore the science that's out there and what's going on right now. There's some people that are doing some really good work. So you also have to keep an open mind, and you have to continually try to kind of investigate, figure out the best course of action. So I'll give you an example. I wrote an article in this magazine. This is in October of 2003. And what I talked about was branched chain amino acids and using them with Gatorade as an intra-workout combination. Long story short, I really liked that combination. I felt like I wasn't getting as sore. I felt like my recovery was a little better. And looking back, it was probably just the insulin release from the Gatorade, but there was definitely something positive happening there. Later on, I began to work with another company. A few years later, we started using whole proteins, and specifically it was a casein. It was casein hydrolysate is what it was. When I say whole protein, I mean a protein that has all the essential amino acids in it. Okay, so it had the branched chain amino acids. There's 3 of them, and then the other 6 that are also essential. We also combined that with carbohydrates, and the results were really good. We used it intra-workout, and the results were excellent. Now, the downside of the casein hydrolysate is it's really expensive. So I began having people substitute essential amino acids, just nice, simple, easy to digest EAAs. And I had them combine that with the carbohydrates, and it worked every bit as good. So I've been using that kind of model ever since, because I think the results have been really good. Now, the interesting thing, so there's been some new information. I don't know really if it's new, but there's some good information that's come up on BCAAs lately. So the people who, first of all, why would you use a BCAA? There are a lot of good studies out there that talk about BCAAs. They turn on protein synthesis. And what they're going to tell you is that they turn on this thing called mTOR, okay? mTOR, just think it's a protein. Just think of it as a kind of a sensor. And when it senses insulin and excessive calories and protein coming in, it regulates cellular metabolism and cell proliferation, all those things. So it kind of aids in a anabolic state. And when you take BCAAs, that's what you want. You want to create an anabolic state. Now, an anabolic state is a state in which you can grow muscle, new muscle tissue. And, we have this equation. You're either building muscle or you're breaking it down. Protein synthesis or protein breakdown. And the more the more heavy you can get it tilted toward protein synthesis as opposed to breakdown, the more you're in an anabolic state. So the question has always been, do BCAAs create this anabolic state? And that's where these 2 studies I want to share with you come into play. So one of them is done by, when you see the name Tipton, it's legit. It's legit. This lab in England does some really, really good work. And so the first study, it's called Branched Chain Amino Acid Ingestion Stimulates Muscle Myofibrillar Protein Synthesis Following Resistance Exercise in Humans. Okay, so what they're testing is in a post-absorptive state, which means you didn't just eat a meal. You've already ate, everything's been digested, and so forth. They want to see if you get protein synthesis from BCAAs. And long story short was they found that there was an increase in muscle protein synthesis initially from the BCAAs, which is you read over and over and over. We know leucine turns on that mTOR thing, that sensor that starts muscle protein synthesis. But here's the thing, turning that on, it's like turning a car on. You still need gas in the car to want to get anywhere. Turning it on is okay, but you still got to get somewhere. And muscle protein synthesis needs to be sustained. You can't just turn it on, you have to sustain it. And in order to sustain it, you need all the essential amino acids. So what they found, I don't want to misquote anybody, so I'm just going to read you the conclusion. This is what they found. The ingestion of BCAAs alone without the concurrent ingestion of other EAAs, intact protein or other macronutrients, does increase the stimulation of mTOR, but our data supports the notion that BCAA ingestion alone does not maximally stimulate muscle protein synthesis following exercise. The lack of sufficient EAA appears to limit the response of muscle protein synthesis following exercise. So without those essential amino acids, you could not get the maximum effect. Okay. Now, there was one more I wanted to share with you real quick. It's by a guy named Robert Wolfe. Robert Wolfe is like the godfather of amino acid metabolism. This guy is like literally the godfather. He actually takes a really hard stance on this. And basically what he says is, when you don't have all the essential amino acids in a post-absorptive state, you have to get them by muscle protein breakdown. So in other words, you have to take protein that already exists. You have to break protein down in order to get those six essentials that you don't have. Now, you got to be careful with this though, because protein turnover is always happening. You've always got synthesis happening. You've always got breakdown happening. So you got to be a little careful with that. But this was his words. He even went so far in this to say as BCAAs can create a persistent catabolic state. That's a really strong statement. So the article, if you want to look it up, it's called Branched Chain Amino Acids and Muscle Protein Synthesis in Humans, Myth or Reality? And again, it's by Robert Wolfe. His conclusion is a physiologically significant increase in the rate of muscle protein synthesis requires adequate availability of all amino acid precursors. So he's saying that you need all of the essential amino acids. I could read the rest of it, but he's pretty strong in his stance. And as you know, I created a product that has all the essential amino acids. I also threw Pico 2 in there at a good dose, which is a mushroom extract that increases power production and endurance. But I just want to share this with you guys today because BCAAs, in my opinion, are way overhyped. And I bought into the hype myself. But as I've gotten more educated and I've played around with it more via experience and also through research, I found the EAAs are just vastly superior.